If I told you that there has already been a rivalry with attempted murders by fire or electrocution, you wouldn't believe me, right? However, this is what took place in 2003 in a storyline, and not just anyone, the one between Kane and Shane McMahon. It is a pleasure to meet you on the Wrestling Paradise to live or relive together one of pro wrestling's most intense stories. You will discover, among other things, extraordinary moments such as when Kane electrocuted Shane McMahon's balls or burned commentator Jim Ross, when Vince's son sent the monster to hell or tried to kill him with his limousine in a very shocking way, or even when Linda McMahon suffered a tombstone. You will see a Kane in a more dangerous and psychopathic version than ever, in a real collection of iconic scenes. And to top it all off, you will learn why the Undertaker's brother was happy to no longer wear his mask, but also how his wife reacted when she saw his new haircut. You are on the Wrestling Paradise, Kane vs. Shane McMahon, a legendary rivalry full of epic moments. Let's go! June 23rd, 2003 was a very important date for Kane, one of the most terrifying superstars in the WWE. For the first time ever, the monster was forced to take off his mask to reveal his terrible face to us.
Oh my God!
Before attacking his friend Rob Van Dam. The commentators were amazed, and the audience too, but the one who suffered the most from this moment is Kane himself. His pain was only growing week after week, and the least we can say is that he was terrorizing everyone. And he will even explode the general manager of the Red Show, Eric Bischoff, on a table near the stage. The evolution of the big red monster is exciting to follow. He is tortured and not doing well, and a poor cameraman will suffer the consequences of that. It's time to act for Stone Cold.
I don't need you killing my superstars backstage. I need you killing my superstars in the ring.
According to him, Kane must face the crowd. He must stop hiding, take off that black towel he wears on his head. He tells him this is not a beauty contest. These people are here to see him perform. They don't care about his look. Kane is convinced that the rattlesnake is laughing at him and violently attacks him with a chokeslam. It seems like Stone Cold was the ideal person to try to help him, to reason with him. For sure, Austin's words could be a little violent. We know his very direct style, but at the same time we felt a lot of kindness in his words and a desire to do well. Jim Ross will be the next to try to reach out to him, and things are straight up. If the commentator makes fun of him during the interview, Kane will burn him alive.
Set you on fire!
He says that he was a perfectly happy child, until the fire turned him into a monster. His friends want him to reveal this monster in front of the whole world, and he doesn't understand why they want to inflict this on him. We can appreciate the fact of Kane's feelings. We not only witness brutal destruction, we also have explanations, depth, and that's what helps to connect even more to the story that is being told. Jim Ross tells him that Stone Cold, Rob Van Dam, the WWE fans don't want to hurt him. They accept him for who he is. Unfortunately for the commentator, his words will not have the hoped for effect and will put the monster into an intense rage. Stone Cold goes to the ring and offers him his help once again, but as promised, Kane will literally burn Jim Ross alive under the bemused gaze of the rattlesnake. The scene is impressive and the situation is becoming really worrying around Kane. Is Linda McMahon going to be the one to put an end to this nightmare? She informs us in any case that Kane is under police surveillance and will also have to undergo a psychological assessment.
So much for the moment of levity. As you can see,
no less than 8 policemen escort the monster towards the ring for his match against Rob Van Dam. He really looks like the final boss of a video game that is arriving. It's really very impressive. We can enjoy his Slow Chemicals theme song and the moment when he blows up the corners of the ring. The confrontation is very short. The monster destroys RVD quickly right in the stage that explodes. And officials are forced to come and try to calm him down until the appearance of Linda McMahon in person. It's the most total chaos on Raw, but the worst is yet to come. The big red monster will dare to do a devastating tombstone piledriver on Vince's wife right on the stage. It's hard to realize, but the guy literally just demolished the big boss's wife. He tried to burn the leading commentator, smash the GM of Raw, and then the co-GM Stone Cold. Every week we had an attempted murder live. One thing is certain, the point of no return has been reached. It can only go into a spin now, and all the viewers are eager to be at the next Raw and know the rest of this more than captivating story. And we will be fixed from the beginning of the show, since it is the big boss Vince McMahon who opens the Red Show. Look how red he is because of his anger. He promises to confront Kane later in the evening, and we could think that it's going to take a long time. The big red monster is locked in a car, and Eric Bischoff reprimands the police who dared to open the door for him to get some fresh air. This tells us everything about the threat he is. We have this zero-tolerance mentality, this zero-risk policy, and when it's time to go to the ring with the beast, Bischoff is really adamant. He asks if everything is ready, including the tasers. He says that if Kane does anything wrong, they can light him like a Christmas tree.
Look out! Get your lasers on him!
He really looks like an animal. It's impressive. He may be the biggest threat ever in the WWE. 6 policemen surrounded the monster, who arrives to join Vince in the ring, and 2 of them point their tasers at him constantly. Surprisingly, Vince asks the officers to remove the handcuffs before sending them back to the locker room. Jerry Lawler doesn't understand on commentary. He wonders if Vince saw everything Kane's been up to the last few weeks. The big boss yells at him, calling him a Frankenstein and a monster before, start offering to partner with him. Vinnie Mac really has no limit. He tells Kane to imagine how an association with him would be like, and that he can very well forgive him for attacking his wife. Austin arrives to save us. We were really close to a huge upheaval in the WWE. Can you imagine Kane in the palm of Vince's hand? It's better not to even think about it. Stone Cold will provoke Kane verbally for several minutes, and the rule is simple. The Rattlesnake has the right to retaliate only if he is in a self-defense position. He orders him to attack him, but the monster laughs and doesn't fall for it.
Here comes the money. Here comes the money.
What a surprise! Shane McMahon, the prodigal son, is here. He doesn't seem happy and jumps on Kane. Vince comes to restrain him and... Shane has just hit his father and smashed Kane with chairs until he fell off the stage. We thought the demon was on the ground, but he gets up laughing. Jerry Lawler says he really is a monster and is in shock. That is how this episode of The Red Show ends, which kept us in suspense until the last second. Shane O'Mac opens the next Raw and promises to finish the job, to make his life impossible, to make it a permanent nightmare.
This is something not gonna sit well with you.
Bischoff arrives to the ring while the fans are calling him names, which sets the tone. He tells Shane he also hates Kane, that he has nightmares thinking back to when he massacred him on the stage. He would like to see Kane versus Shane tonight, but he can't. Everything is in the hands of Vince McMahon. He called him before the show and he has only one thing in mind: to see RVD against Kane at Summerslam. Shane would be delighted to see RVD demolish Kane at Summerslam, but he doesn't care because he wants him tonight. Bischoff informs Shane that Vince had anticipated this situation and asked for Shane to be escorted out of the building by the police. The GM tells him that he is not going to call the officers and prefers him to leave on his own. Obviously, Shane refuses and Bischoff offers him a match tonight. That is unexpected.
I think it's go time! Wow!
It's always impressive to see Stone Cold's stature. We can say he exudes such power. The Rattlesnake will make the match between the two a no-holds-barred. He says it's official. Eric Bischoff against Shane McMahon tonight in a no-holds-barred, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. Kane is still under police surveillance and Shane is literally rushing at the truck, screaming to get him out of there. He clearly wants to fight the monster, and we can only understand it. Bischoff, who had tried to have the Evolution clan around the ring for tonight's match, finds himself in front of the truck unattended since he sent the police for a walk. He made it seem that Shane had attacked one of them. The GM has the key in his hands, and we can only suspect what he has in mind. Shane's opponent arrives first in the ring and offers us a karate demonstration on a poor, innocent official. He's still a black belt in karate. Lawler wonders if he is trying to intimidate the McMahon son. In any case, it doesn't seem to have made an effect considering how he dances when he arrives in the arena. Earl Hebner starts the match, and it is Bischoff who takes the advantage with superb, well-placed shots. Shane responds with some ground and pounding. The big red monster is there and smashes O'Mac. He asks him if he is going to make his life a living hell, if that's what he's going to do. The monster does an absolutely devastating tombstone on Shane and he really doesn't seem well after it. The coach says someone has to come and put an end to all this as Kane throws McMahon into the ring. 1, 2, 3, and it is a victory for the GM, who can celebrate in the ring and then with the commentators. He asks them to give him 5. One Raw ends, another starts with the same song, the one of Bischoff, who parades celebrating his victory. He even asks Lillian Garcia to repeat the result, and she immediately does it.
Here's your winner, Eric Bischoff.
The GM makes fun of Shane before being joined by Jim Ross, who makes his big comeback to the delight of the crowd. He is as classy as usual with his hat and his WWE shirt. He accuses Bischoff of setting a trap for him so that Kane burns him alive, and that's why he's going to give him the trial of the century and take everything from him. Austin agrees with JR not to sue Bischoff if and only if he agrees to face a certain person tonight. Eric says that he knows where Steve is going. He knows how Shane McMahon wants his revenge, but as far as he's concerned it's over. He doesn't want to hear about it anymore. Ross tells him he better call his lawyer. Eventually, Eric accepts to sign the contract. Austin asks if he is sure he doesn't want to read it first. He answers that he doesn't need to, and that he's facing Shane in the middle of the ring. Stone Cold asks him what he is talking about. Shane is in no condition to fight tonight after what he suffered last week. Eric didn't sign a contract to face Shane McMahon. Austin tells him he's stupid, and that tonight he will have a match. Man to man, mano to mano, against Kane. Bischoff's reaction is priceless and says it all. He is in deep trouble. The policemen take Kane out of the van while he is still tied on all sides, and it is Bischoff who arrives to try to negotiate with him to avoid the destruction of the decade. Eric's idea is to lie down in front of the monster, who will only have to pin him, but Kane couldn't care less.
Tonight, we do things my way.
Bischoff arrives in the ring before being joined by Kane and his escort. The moment when the policemen take off his chains is incredible. Between the music, the lighting, and the terrified GM in the ring, we have all the ingredients here for an iconic scene. The monster lifts him up to give him a chokeslam that looks monumental before going away. He asks the people if they want him to destroy Eric Bischoff, if that's what they want. He is tired of doing what others want him to do. From now on, he's going to do what he wants. Bischoff is happy in the ring and flees before Kane gets his hands on him. Rob Van Dam appears to attack the monster and follows it up with spectacular moves until the demon destroys him with a chair shot. At Summerslam, it will be Kane against RVD. Eric Bischoff tells Steve Austin that sometimes it's really hard to be this good. All this pressure is a real weight, but he's fighting for perfection. Austin tells him that he will be able to show how good he is in his next match. The part of the contract that he forgot to read said that the winner of the match between him and Kane was going to face Shane McMahon at SummerSlam. It's really a permanent chess game between the two Raw general managers, and it's really very entertaining to follow. Bischoff keeps going from euphoria to disappointment all the time.
Here comes the money.
We're at the final Raw before SummerSlam, and Shane McMahon is back with a big announcement. His match against Bischoff at SummerSlam is officially cancelled since tonight. He's going to put the GM out of business. He also has a gift for Kane, some gasoline. Shane says that tonight, Kane will learn that he is not the only one who likes to play with fire. We have news from Linda McMahon, who is rather reassuring about her condition. She needs to do rehabilitation and will eventually recover. Of course, she was traumatized. She doesn't know if she could return to the ring. She notices that someone is ringing at her office relentlessly. It's Eric Bischoff. She asks him how he got here. He answers that she seems so surprised to see him. He can only imagine her son's reaction when he sees that Eric Bischoff has entered the McMahon mansion. He tells Linda she is gorgeous tonight. The GM promises to smash her son Shane, this man who bought WCW for almost nothing, a company he built with his blood and tears. He promises to break his legs and make him cry over and over again before blocking Linda's arms and pressing her against him in a very insisting way. Bischoff invites Linda to take him to the bedroom, and then he forcibly kisses her. Shane was able to see the scene on his phone and steals another guy's car to get to the mansion. Kane is backstage in the arena, and this crazy guy tied RVD to a pole. He pours gasoline on him and yells at him that he can finish him whenever he wants. The tension is huge, as he seems to be setting Rob on fire. For the demon litter match, he says this is what they would like him to do. But he's not going to do it. He's going to do whatever he wants. That was close. However, it seems like Kane has softened a little in recent weeks. It's a shame because he's getting less and less scary. But hey, let's not talk too fast. One thing is for sure. SummerSlam is going to be tense, extremely tense. Honestly, how can we not be hyped for the biggest show of the summer? On the one hand, you have Kane who ties up his opponent and is close to burning him. On the other, you have Bischoff, who goes to the McMahon family mansion to apparently make out with Shane's mother, the big boss's wife. And except the two matches that we are interested in, there is also an Elimination Chamber match for the heavyweight title, for example. Eric Bischoff proudly arrives in the ring wearing a judoka outfit and announced by none other than Howard Finkel. He clearly implies that he had sex with Linda, and Shane doesn't take a long time to arrive. Charles Robinson barely has time to order the bell to be rung. The McMahon son is already rushing at the Raw co-GM. Bischoff is really having a hard time until Jonathan Coachman appears out of nowhere to hit him with a chair. Robinson shouts to ring the bell, but Bischoff says they're not going to ring the bell. This match is now a no disqualification match and falls count absolutely everywhere. The judoka then orders that the microphones of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler be cut off before hitting McMahon, who ended up coming back into the match, but this really hurts. We've been waiting for him, and here he is, the Texas Rattlesnake. He joins forces with Shane to shrivel up the coach and then do a stunner to his GM colleague. To finish everything in style, Shane does a coast-to-coast on the commentator's table, which destroys Mr. Black Belt. 1, 2, 3. Shane McMahon wins the match. It seems like it was a good choice to do this match full of action. It went in all directions, and that's what was needed. To me, this deserves a solid mark. That's really not bad at all considering the matchup. Later in the evening, Kane arrives without his chains or his police escort, and it's a shame. It would have been relevant to bring him with an armored truck, even more police officers, and even more chains. This is Summerslam. What would happen if Kane attacked the participants of the World Championship matches? Where is zero tolerance mentality? Rob Van Dam arrives, and he doesn't even wait for the bell to ring to jump on the monster. Kane's brutality contrasts with the aerial and technical style of RVD. The match ends after the monster did a devastating tombstone to his opponent on the staircase. On commentary, Jim Ross says that Rob Van Dam gave everything he had. He gave his heart and soul for this match, but tonight was the night of the big red monster. Even if there were some rather impressive moments, it's hard to give it a better mark than this one. Backstage, Eric Bischoff is asked how he's feeling after his match against Shane McMahon. He asks her if she is stupid or blonde and tells her to get out of here. Linda arrives and makes the co-GM stutter before hitting him in the face. He deserved that. Will the temperature drop a little after SummerSlam? It doesn't look like it, since Chris Jericho will keep it up. The Canadian invited Linda McMahon in his highlight reel, and he doesn't lose any time. He asks Linda what everybody wants to know. What happened with Bischoff? Did they really go to the bedroom? Did they do spicy things? Is this all true? Vince's wife will quickly put out the rumors by claiming that security quickly arrived to put Bischoff out of her home. For her, Eric's attitude is scandalous and he deserves to be fired. She thought about it, but she knows very well that Vince would do anything to hire him again right after that. We were just speaking about him. Vince says he decided that there would be absolutely no repercussions for Eric Bischoff. He was the one who invited him to their house last week. He says Linda is pretending to be the victim, but he is the victim. He is a victim of their completely failed marriage and of what came out of her demon-infested womb. He's talking about their children, Shane and Stephanie. He thinks that because of Linda, they don't respect him. Linda tells Vince he really needs help on a psychological level. The boss will say that he recognizes himself in Kane. At one time, everyone loved him, and then everyone turned their backs on him. Shane McMahon is here, and it's a real family reunion tonight. Shane says Vince is right. Kane and Vince do have a lot in common. They are monsters. It may sound inappropriate for a son to tell his father, but as far as Shane is concerned, they can both go rot in hell. Jericho comes back into the dance and puts Shane O'Mac back in place. He asks him to respect this genius that is Vince McMahon before insulting him. The big boss announces that tonight it will be Shane McMahon against Chris Jericho in the main event of the evening. Shane arrives first, followed by Jericho, and the match is really not bad at all. Y2J is constantly trash-talking, which annoys Shane and awakens his daredevil side. The boss's son climbs on the top rope for a jump on his opponent, who is outside, and
Everybody at ringside, Shane, don't do it, Shane! Oh, God almighty!
Strangely, the big red monster isn't here. The match can continue until he finally shows up for good. Jerry Lawler says this time, it's not a diversion, it's the monster himself. Kane does a chokeslam on Shane before walking away through the crowd. JR wonders what he's doing, why he doesn't finish the job, as O'Mac gets up and goes after him. The boss's son is looking for him for a while outside the arena before being surprised by the demon, who attacks him from behind. Kane throws Shane against a concrete wall several times before revealing gasoline. On commentary, Jim Ross is terrified because Shane McMahon is defenseless and this monster won't hesitate to kill him. He is right, since the monster is going to set fire to a container.
Oh, please don't do that. Oh my God.
These images are absolutely impressive. Kane asks him if he feels his pain. He goes to throw Shane in the dumpster, but then Shane frees himself and throws the monster in it. He insults him and tells to burn in hell. This is absolutely crazy. What a way to end a show. What a rivalry. The following week, Shane is very clear. He hopes that this scumbag is rotting in hell. Later in the show, Stone Cold will advise him to leave the arena, but you know the boss's son. He's not one to run away. Vince McMahon joins Shane, who asks him what he's doing here. Vince says he has the right to be here. He doesn't have to justify himself, but he's worried. He's worried about his safety. He was told that something was going to happen tonight, and he would like to be clear with him. He says he may not have been the best father possible, but he tried, so he'd like to make it right between them. He needs to know if he can forgive him. Shane asks if he's worried about him. He offers to get in the ring and see how worried he is about him.
That's life can be, and there you see him.
Shane is not scared because he says that if something is going to happen to him tonight, it might as well happen immediately. Eric Bischoff appears to come and torment McMahon then. The arena is plunged into darkness, and when the lights come back on, Kane surprises Shane from behind. The monster handcuffs the boss's son on a ring corner before wetting him and retrieving pliers from under the ring with also a battery. Jim Ross is terrified, saying that Kane is not human.
He's not a human being. Oh no! Kane is a lunatic!
Fortunately for Shane, he receives miraculous help from Rob Van Dam, who dismounts Kane before freeing Shane. Look at the state in which he is. We literally witness attempted murders every week. However, it's a bit disappointing that Kane did not appear all burned and really damaged to show the impact of what happened last week. Why not a new outfit? A new look? They had to give emphasis to what happened at the end of the last Raw, and the only thing that it's still different is a little black under the eyes. The next Raw starts directly with a steel cage match between Kane and Rob Van Dam, and it is RVD who wins it in a very original way.
Kane, all the power again!
But Bischoff arrives and says RVD is not the winner of this match. The rules say that you have to go through the door or out the top of the cage to win. He makes the match continue. The monster wins after a huge chokeslam from one side of the cage.
On the top row!
Later in the evening, Shane McMahon joins us from the WWE studios in Stamford. He promises hell to Kane at Unforgiven before Bischoff appears to announce that it will be a last man standing match. Can you only imagine the monster Kane against the daredevil Shane in a last man standing match? It's going to be deadly. In the last Raw before Unforgiven, we are entitled to the official contract signing between Kane and McMahon. Bischoff arrives and warns us that a clause is provided for in the contract freeing him from any responsibility if something serious happens. The monster makes his entrance with his so disturbing look and signs the contract immediately before blowing up the ring corners. Shane arrives in turn, and it is very clear. He says that if he sinks, he would make him sink with him. He tells Kane to look him in the eyes. As long as he's still breathing, he'll do everything in his power to be the last man standing. The boss's son signs too, but then Kane overturns the table. Shane pounces on him.
Oh, look at this! Everything! Oh, got his testicles! Now Kane's going with him!
Jim Ross is very excited and wonders who's going to pay the ultimate price. That's what we'll find out at Unforgiven, as the two men look at each other between the stage and the ring. This rivalry really is intense. It's personal, full of surprises, and both wrestlers know perfectly well what to do to make each situation completely crazy. We can't wait for Unforgiven. It's finally time to fight between the two men, and things starts very intensely.
Hey, Shane McMahon!
McMahon attacks the monster with a chair in the ring, and it's quite enjoyable to see a match start so quickly. Of course, we can appreciate an entrance pyro production music. But tonight is not the time for all that, and we can applaud Shane for his initiative. The confrontation is as brutal as we could hope for, and the two men both have moments of domination.
Now, on top, is Shane McMahon, and Shane McMahon!
At one point, Shane puts Kane in a corner with a staircase in front of him. The whole crowd stands up and understands what is coming.
To coast, and he goes!
Even Charles Robinson is exhausted since he is counting down while still laying on the ground, but once again the two men get up. Kane destroys Shane all along the ramp before throwing him on the stage, but even completely smashed the McMahon son gets up again and again. Jim Ross says Shane McMahon is surviving by the strength of his courage and his big heart, and he is totally right. Kane smashes Shane on the commentator's table before climbing on the stage to knock it over on him. Charles Robinson is counting, but Shane is still getting back up. He grabs a camera ramp and smashes the demon with it before choking him with cables. It is brutal for sure. Shane does a DDT on Kane and then throws punches on him before looking up. The crowd is exulting and everyone understood it. Shane climbs on the stage and throws himself at the monster, who manages to dodge him. Shane McMahon literally buried himself in the stage and Charles Robinson crucifies him with the count of 10. Kane therefore wins this match while Shane is evacuated on a stretcher while the crowd is cheering. It was excellent, perfectly paced, hyper-violent, worthy of the storyline that has been written between the two men for weeks, and for all these reasons it deserves a very good mark. The only thing we can regret is that, in the end, it looks like it is more Shane who loses the match than Kane who wins it dominantly. Will the McMahon son learn the lesson for a possible sequel? At the Raw after Unforgiven, Shane McMahon is obviously in the hospital. He tells us that he is completely shattered physically, but that he has never felt better mentally. He promises to go find Kane as soon as he can, and his wish will be granted since the monster appears and comes to kill him.
Feel it, Shano.
Kane literally just demolished Shane in the hospital. There really is an amazing level of violence and tension between them. Look at how happy the monster is leaving the scene while Shane is on the ground completely smashed. The following week it was Hurricane Helms who tried to reason with the monster with whom he had won the team titles barely a year ago, but there was nothing to do. Kane asks him if he really wants to know why he became a monster and tells him to join him so he can show him. Helms refuses, and Kane verbally attacks a kid in the crowd before the superhero comes to attack the demon. Helms and his partner Rosie manage to keep Kane away, and tonight we are once again not far from a drama. 7 short days later, the terrifying monster opens Raw for a match against Rosie. Jim Ross tells us that last week Kane was crazy enough to target a poor little child. We don't know what would have happened if Hurricane hadn't bravely intervened. Let's not even imagine that. The match between Kane and Rosie is pretty good. A typical heavyweight clash, and this one has the advantage of having a really good pace. The big red monster wins but is attacked by Helms and then by Shane McMahon, who invites him to follow him. A bit later, Kane is yelling at an employee, asking him where Shane is. The monster then enters the production truck, but Shane is not there. The boss's son is finally facing the demon and manages to quickly get into his limousine. Kane is in the car, but Shane is coming out of it right in time. He asks him if he wants to take a little ride and wishes him a nice ride. The firefighters arrive quickly on the scene while Kane is literally bleeding in the car, which is completely exploded, and it is really very impressive to see. Steve Austin wants to see the scene and shouts that he's alive. A firefighter tells him to let them work, that they will do everything they can. A few moments later, the police arrives on the scene to contain Eric Bischoff, who is very mad. Later, the GM will find a witness who has seen the whole scene and who tells him everything. For Bischoff, there is no doubt. If Kane dies tonight, it is the fault of Steve Austin, who has blood on his hands. Kane's condition when the firefighters take him to the ambulance is quite worrying. It's unsure if we will see him again anytime soon. On the following Raw, Shane McMahon will team up with the Dudley Boys and Booker T against Christian, Conway, and the Resistance in a 4-on-4 tables match. The McMahon son treats us with a beautiful coast-to-coast. After the match, Shane tells us that we are going to be in communication with Kane by satellite, but the monster is in a bed, completely inert. Shane wants Kane to listen to him. They can keep talking until one of them ends up dying, but he has something to offer. A match at Survivor Series. The monster does not react, but the machines around him keep beeping more and more as McMahon provokes him.
Got to stop this interview right now.
This rivalry is really crazy. Kane and Shane have no limits, and we can't wait to know the stipulation of their match at Survivor Series. Did you miss seeing Kane surrounded by the police? Well, there you have it again. Would you look at that?
Oh my God! But God, I guess so.
A dozen officers accompany a completely damaged Kane, and the monster is blunt. He says that it all started with Shane's mother. She believed that she could stop him, control him, but she got a tombstone, praying for her life. Inflicting pain feeds him, and now it's Shane who thinks he can stop him, but he doesn't understand. Nothing can stop him. He's going to give him one last chance at Survivor Series, but Shane can be sure of one thing. Kane will be limitless. At Survivor Series, it will be Shane's end. The following week, Shane first thinks he has to face Test, but he is obviously not in a good shape. Or maybe he is. The confrontation is really violent, and Test spends most of his time asking for Kane with no success. Shane finishes him with his coast-to-coast on a trash can. Now it's McMahon who is calling for the monster. He yells for Kane to appear. He was the one who started all this. He made it so personal. Is Kane afraid of having to take another little limo ride? Unfortunately for Test, he will serve as an example so that Shane can show Kane what awaits him at Survivor Series, and it's not pretty. The demon ended up appearing on the stage but refuses to go to the ring. Shane says that fear is stopping him from coming to him. Kane is scared because he realized that Shane was the only man who could be as crazy as him, and he guarantees him that it's going to be crazy at Survivor Series. One of them will end up in the hospital. That's a guarantee. That's why Shane is offering him an ambulance match. Kane accepts in his own way. And this stipulation seems great and perfectly adapted to the story that is being told. In the following Raw, we simply find the monster next to an ambulance. He warns Shane that it will be very violent and makes him imagine what it feels like to be put in the back of an ambulance by doctors without knowing where you are and to be rushed to the hospital. It was really well produced in my opinion. There was a point of view as if we were living what Kane was describing. We could almost experience how it would feel. If we put ourselves in Shane's shoes, there are reasons not to be reassured. Later in the evening, Sergeant Slaughter transmits a message from Shane McMahon to Kane, who laughs while accepting his invitation for next week. That's intriguing. Shane arrives at a restaurant, asking to reserve a table for tonight. The host asks if it's for one person. It will be for two. Shane invited Kane to the restaurant. Isn't this completely crazy? The host asks if Shane has chosen his dish. Shane has, and says his guest should be here soon. A few moments later, we see Shane, who has already started eating, and his guest has finally arrived.
It's Kane.
We could think there would be a twist or something, but there isn't. Kane is really here. To see Kane in civilian clothes in a restaurant is really incredible. The two men have dinner and discuss their upcoming Survivor Series match, which is really super original. Kane says he doesn't know what compassion is. He is a monster. His only satisfaction is to make people suffer, and in a few days, Shane's going to suffer. He can't stop a demon. Shane answers that he's not a demon, he's just a dirty scumbag who is petrified inside, and Kane knows it as much as Shane does. The McMahon son gets up, leaves a few dollar bills on the table and leaves, promising Kane to free him from his pain at Survivor Series. There are no words to say how awesome and original this whole rivalry is. Having a segment at the restaurant with normal people around as a grand finale before one of the biggest shows of the year. Absolutely amazing. It's time for Survivor Series, and you probably also have one question on your mind. What do Shane McMahon and Kane have in store for us tonight? After a series of attempted murders and iconic segments, the two will fight in an ambulance match. Vince McMahon is talking to Shane. He knows he's preparing for his match, and he knows it's going to be amazing. He wants to know how he feels. Tonight he is going to face the Undertaker in a match where they will have to bury themselves alive, but Vince feels it is his night tonight. Shane says that the only feeling he has right now is that he feels sorry for his dad. The ambulance is here, in this magnificent stage. To win the match, you will have to put your opponent in the back of it and close both doors. Kane arrives first. This time he can do his whole entrance and admire his opponent's dances. The referee barely has time to order the bell to be rung that the McMahon son has already thrown himself at the monster. The beginning of the match is super violent with stair shots, chairs, and even an incredible jump of Shane on the commentator's table. McMahon asks his opponent to follow him backstage and...
Man down, now we got another camera there.
Shane gets in a vehicle and look at what he does to the demon.
Oh my God!
We are witnessing a real war. Shane says he told him that he was going to free him from his burden. Kane comes back into the match and smashes Shane against the wall before another camera stops working.
Oh, good God almighty.
It's great that even the technical stuff go down facing all the violence that we are witnessing. It's symbolic and it makes the action even crazier. The two men return to the battlefield and are killing each other before the McMahon son does a crazy coast-to-coast on Kane.
Process of trying to destroy Kane!
Jim Ross says Shane is really ready to do anything to win this match. He is really not far of doing just that by locking Kane in the ambulance, but the demon manages to get out at the 11th hour. The monster smashes Omak against all the walls of the ambulance, and look at his outfit. It's rotten on all sides. Kane completes his work with a tombstone right on the stage before locking his opponent in the ambulance to win the match. Jim Ross says Kane did to Shane exactly as he did to his mother. He insults him and gets upset. He can only recognize the triumph of the one who tried to burn him alive. It was full of rhythm, crazy, unpredictable, and we can think the result is quite surprising. We could have thought Shane was going to win and that we were going to have a final match. But no. We must also highlight the finale, which was very well written. Personally, I think it deserves a very good mark. There's not much left to say. Well done and thank you, Kane. Well done and thank you, Shane. We have rarely seen such an intense, violent, and unpredictable rivalry. There are several interesting things to know about this incredible story between Kane and Shane McMahon. First, we must be sufficiently aware that it contains a historic and very special moment in WWE history. The scene where the monster removed his mask for the first time. At that moment, it had been almost 6 years since the fans had always known Kane with a mask. This creative decision was mainly taken to refresh his character. He needed to be revived. As for his very weird haircut when he took off his mask, it was the work of the official Bruce Pritchard. At the moment, he found it cool and intriguing, just like Vince McMahon. But in the end, he only kept it for one day. It was especially complicated for Kane when he had to pick up his children from school in real life. His wife, Crystal, was also not a fan of it. He had surprised her with it, which had shocked her. Apparently, she loved her husband's long hair, so seeing him with such a weird haircut didn't really please her. That's why Kane quickly took away the rest of his hair. This great revival for this character came from Vince McMahon originally, who found that his masked monster gimmick was running out of steam. It was Vince who had the idea of unmasking him. In any case, Kane's look without his mask was decided a little quickly. Besides, Kane even believed that Pritchard was playing a joke on him at the beginning with this initial haircut. Bruce also wanted to add those burn marks to his face. Let's not forget that originally this is why Kane wore a mask, but the monster was still glad to no longer have his mask. He felt like a prisoner because he couldn't convey emotions with his facial expressions to the fans. He was able to go from an inexpressive character to someone he finds even more terrifying. He says that this change is like going from Michael Myers, the main character of the Halloween saga, to Hannibal Lecter. Kane was very enthusiastic about this evolution and appreciated this new start. No longer having a mask has also had its influence in real life. Now he was no longer anonymous in public. People could recognize him. Nevertheless, he explained that before, they already guessed who he was with his size. For Shane McMahon, it was his return to television after about 2 years of absence. Of course, he had already been involved in very dangerous scenes in the past. After this rivalry, Kane will have an opportunity for the heavyweight title at Armageddon against Triple H and Goldberg without success. Some fans think that this rivalry with Shane McMahon has hurt his character. In their eyes, the monster should have completely killed him all the way. It was too equal according to them, which made Kane less threatening. In any case, it's a storyline that still interested a lot of fans. We just have to look at some interesting numbers. From June 23rd, when Kane was unmasked until the end of August, Raw's audiences were often around 4.4 million viewers. It represented the highest rating since the road to WrestleMania. On the other hand, from September, they rarely exceeded 4 million. That didn't stop Unforgiven and Survivor Series from doing good. With 360,000 pay-per-view buys, Unforgiven generated 60,000 more than in 2002. As for Survivor Series, the 2003 edition drew 450,000 purchases, which is 110,000 more than in 2002 and 125,000 more than in 2004. Even if Shane McMahon vs. Kane wasn't the only WWE rivalry at that time, we can imagine that it still had something to do with it.
Hi, Shane-o.
It's funny to note that the two men crossed paths again in a segment on Raw on September 22, 2008. The monster greeted Vince's son by telling him that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. Before leaving, Kane will do a reference to their rivalry by telling Shane to greet his mother on his part. He will leave with his typical sadistic laugh. McMahon will explain to Mike Adamle, the general manager of the Red Show, that they have a big history. He quickly describes what Kane put him through but says that with this past, they are very tight and that it is part of the job. On that day, Shane O'Mac and the Demon offered a little moment of nostalgia, 5 years after their legendary rivalry.
Say hi to your mom for me, okay?
And this is how our immersion in the incredible rivalry between Shane McMahon and Kane in 2003 ends. If we take a step back, we can really be shocked by the amount of completely crazy segments it has. Shane, who throws Kane into the flames, the electrocution, the smashed limousine, the assault in the hospital, the dinner at the restaurant, not to mention the tombstone on Linda, and Jim Ross getting burned. It's extremely rich, intense, violent, epic, ambitious. How can we not enjoy it? It makes me offer you a debate. Do you think Kane should have dominated the rivalry more, and that it didn't help him that Shane competed with him so much? Come and give your opinion in the comments. I wonder what you think about it, and in any case it will be interesting to discuss it together. We can say that this storyline had an incredible intensity. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I invite you to stay on the Paradise of Wrestling to look at some other ones. See you right away.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so. What?